Welcome to Legends of the Wild West. Today, we uncover the gripping stories of frontier icons like, among others, Wild Bill Hickok, Wyatt Earp, Billy the Kid, and Doc Holliday. As we trace their rise from ordinary men to larger-than-life legends, ask yourself, what single moment pushed a lawman to blur the line between justice and vengeance? Or what personal obsession drove a feared gunslinger to risk everything, again and again? Not only will you see their incredible lives unfold, but you'll also discover curious and shocking little-known facts that will transform your view of history. Join us as we dig into the untold truths, daring choices, and enduring myths that shaped the Wild West, and challenge everything you thought you knew about its most legendary figures. Wild Bill Hickok, born James Butler Hickok on May 27, 1837, in Homer, part of Grove Township, in Illinois, is one of the most enduring figures of the American frontier. His life story spans from humble beginnings to becoming a renowned gunfighter, lawman, and gambler during a period when the Old West was defined by rapid expansion, lawlessness, and the clashing of cultures. Hickok's early life in Illinois laid the groundwork for his later exploits. Growing up during a time of great national expansion, he was exposed to the rugged life of the frontier early on. His physical stature, quick reflexes, and natural aptitude for handling firearms set him apart from his peers. While details of his childhood remain sparse, his later reputation suggests that the skills and bravado that defined his adult life were honed during these formative years. During the turbulent mid-19th century, as America edged westward, Hickok's path crossed with historical events that would shape his destiny. Before fully embracing the life of a frontier gunfighter, he served in various capacities that included stints as a stagecoach driver and a scout. The Civil War years saw many young men drawn into the conflict, and while Hickok's exact role during the war is not as clearly documented as some of his later adventures, the period undoubtedly influenced his perceptions of order and chaos, a duality that would characterize his future endeavors. After the war, Hickok immersed himself in the rough-and-tumble world of the American West. By the early 1870s, he had garnered a reputation as a formidable gunslinger. His involvement in law enforcement was as varied as it was legendary. Serving as a deputy marshal in towns where law and order were more suggestions than rules, Hickok became known for his willingness to confront outlaws and maintain a semblance of justice in a rapidly changing society. One of his most notable roles was in Abilene, Kansas, where his duty as a lawman earned him both respect and notoriety. The role of a frontier lawman during this period was often a balancing act between exercising authority and navigating the chaotic environment of boomtowns. Curiosity about Hickok's reputation is heightened by several intriguing facts about his life. Hickok was reputed to be a crack shot, capable of drawing his revolver with remarkable speed and accuracy, a skill that became the stuff of legend. One particular incident that illustrates his prowess took place in a small town where a chance encounter turned into a demonstration of his deadly efficiency with a firearm. Although exact details of many duels and confrontations have been wrapped in myth, contemporary accounts suggest that his performance in these skirmishes was instrumental in elevating his status from a mere enforcer of the law to a figure of folklore. Geographically, Hickok's life was intertwined with key locations of the Wild West. After his time in Kansas, he spent significant periods in Nebraska, South Dakota, and other territories that were at the epicenter of American frontier expansion. Perhaps most famously, his final days were spent in Deadwood, South Dakota, a mining town that was the embodiment of frontier chaos and opportunity. Deadwood's reputation for lawlessness and its vibrant, if dangerous, social scene contributed to the larger-than-life image that Hickok now occupies in American history. Hickok's life was as much about his persona as it was about his accomplishments. Stories of his exploits spread quickly, both through word of mouth and through the burgeoning media of the era. His personality, marked by a blend of charm, audacity, and an unyielding sense of justice, captured the public's imagination. Hickok was not just a man with a quick draw. He was a charismatic figure who symbolized the rugged individualism of the West. This charisma is evidenced by the way he mingled with a diverse array of individuals, from fellow outlaws to earnest settlers trying to carve out a living in uncertain times. One of the most enduring elements of Wild Bill Hickok's legacy is the manner of his death, which only added to his legendary status. On August 2, 1876, while playing a game of poker in a saloon in Deadwood, Hickok was shot in the back. The circumstances around the incident, including the suspicious timing and the setting in one of the lawless towns of the Dakota Territory, have fueled debates and conspiracy theories ever since. The poker hand he was holding at the moment of his death, 2 aces and 2 eights, has since been immortalized in popular culture as the dead man's hand. This macabre detail, reported in numerous contemporary accounts and later embellished by storytellers, cemented his image as both a feared gunfighter and a tragic figure whose end was as dramatic as his life. In exploring Hickok's biography, it is important to note the mixture of documented fact and the embellishments that came with frontier lore. His recorded exploits blend seamlessly with oral histories and dime novel accounts that often prioritized sensationalism over precision. This intermingling of fact and myth is one of the reasons why Wild Bill Hickok remains an enduring symbol of the Wild West. His life continues to be a subject of fascination for historians, enthusiasts, and storytellers alike, who seek to separate the man from the myth while appreciating the raw, unfiltered narrative of a man who lived on the edge. There are several curious elements of Hickok's story that invite further investigation. For instance, beyond his aptitude with a revolver, Hickok was known to possess a keen sense of timing and strategy that often allowed him to outmaneuver his adversaries without resorting to unnecessary violence. This attribute was not common among his contemporaries and contributed to his reputation as a man who could theoretically have avoided countless confrontations if he had wished. Additionally, his transition from roles as a scout and soldier to a lawman and gambler illustrates a versatility that was necessary for survival on the frontier, a quality that continues to capture the interest of researchers delving into the multifaceted lives of Wild West figures. Geographically, Hickok's journey is a map of the American frontier. Starting in Illinois, his path took him through the burgeoning towns of Kansas and Nebraska, culminating in the notoriously unpredictable environment of the Dakota Territory. His movement from established towns to more chaotic and unregulated settlements mirrors the broader movement of the American population during the 19th century as people sought opportunities in new territories. Each location where Hickok lived or worked contributed a chapter to his story, whether it was the disciplined environment of a developing town like Abilene or the untamed, lawless streets of Deadwood. The context of his career is also marked by a period of significant technological and social change. During Hickok's lifetime, the transformation from a primarily agrarian society to an emerging industrial one was underway. Despite these advances, many regions of the country, especially out in the frontier territories, operated under rules that were more fluid and less influenced by modern law enforcement practices. Hickok's role as a lawman, therefore, involved a delicate balance between enforcing legal norms and adapting to an environment in which personal reputation could be as influential as official law. Wyatt Earp was born on March 19, 1848, in Monmouth, Illinois, and his life came to symbolize the rugged transition from frontier chaos to a semblance of order. Raised in a family that experienced both success and hardship, Wyatt developed a strong work ethic and an early sense of the harsh realities of life on the American frontier. His early years, marked by frequent moves and a diverse range of occupations, set the stage for a life that would eventually bridge the gap between outlaw reputation and the maintenance of law and order. In his youth, Wyatt found work as a buffalo hunter and even a railroader, experiences that exposed him to the vast, unsettled territories of the West. The economic opportunities of the era led him to try his hand at a variety of ventures, including farming, mining, and most notably, gambling, a venture that intertwined with his later reputation as a gambler and part-time saloon keeper. These early engagements not only helped him develop resilience, but also instilled a deep familiarity with the rough-and-tumble environments where conventional rules often faltered. Wyatt's reputation as a lawman began to build during his time in frontier towns like Dodge City and Tombstone. In Dodge City, he served as a constable and later gained a reputation for his toughness and fairness in upholding the law in an environment often defined by violence and shifting allegiances. His approach to law enforcement was pragmatic, blending strict adherence to order with a practical understanding of the common man's struggles. These experiences solidified his image as someone who could impose a measure of discipline on a seemingly lawless land. Perhaps the most famous episode of Wyatt's career, and the event that has most deeply embedded his legacy in American history, is the gunfight at the Oakley Corral. Occurring on October 26, 1881, in Tombstone, Arizona Territory, this brief but iconic shootout pitted Wyatt and several of his allies against a group of outlaws known as the Cowboys. Although the fight lasted only about 30 seconds, it has been recounted through countless reports, films, and books, each adding layers of myth and speculation. The gunfight not only underscored the volatile environment of Tombstone, but also highlighted Wyatt's role as a mediator between two worlds, one where the rough justice of the frontier held sway, and another where emerging societal norms began to take root. The details surrounding the events at Tombstone have inspired numerous debates among historians. Some accounts praise Wyatt for his measured and courageous approach, while others suggest that the confrontation was less a battle of rugged individualism and more the tragic culmination of long-standing personal and political conflicts. Regardless of interpretation, the Oakley Corral incident has come to symbolize the struggle between established order and frontier chaos. Curiosity still surrounds questions like, what were the exact factors that escalated tensions to such a deadly climax? And could another approach have defused the potentially deadly situation without resorting to gunfire? Following Tombstone, Wyatt's career took him to various frontier settlements where he continued to work in law enforcement, often stepping into roles that merged official authority with the informal justice system of the West. His mobility across states such as Kansas, Arizona, and California underscores a life spent navigating a rapidly changing national landscape. His work as a gambler and occasional saloon keeper not only supplemented his income, but also brought him into contact with a diverse cross-section of frontier society, from hardworking settlers to notorious outlaws. Wyatt was known not only for his physical presence and quick draw, but also for his calm demeanor and shrewd judgment. His approach to gambling and business showcased an ability to read people and situations, a skill that served him well both in negotiations and in confrontations. An interesting facet of Wyatt's persona was his reputation for integrity among friends and foes alike. In an environment where loyalty was often fleeting and betrayal commonplace, Wyatt's steadfast adherence to his own moral code set him apart. His actions and decisions underscored the notion that maintaining order in an unpredictable wilderness sometimes required as much personal sacrifice as it did boldness. Geographically, Wyatt Earp's journey reflects the broader narrative of American expansion in the 19th century. His travels took him from the industrializing fields of the Midwest to the unsettled, often lawless territories of the Southwest. In Tombstone, Arizona, the backdrop of tin mines and a boomtown atmosphere provided the perfect setting for the dramatic events that would later become the stuff of legend. Furthermore, his later years included stints in San Francisco and Los Angeles, where the emerging modernity of California introduced him to a different, more organized world. This geographical journey, from small Midwestern towns through frontier boomtowns to the burgeoning urban centers of the West, mirrored the evolution of a nation struggling to transition from a collection of isolated settlements to a united, modern society. Wyatt's later life was marked by a gradual retreat from the violent scenes that had once defined his public persona. Although he continued to be involved in business, and even ventured into running saloons, he never fully escaped the shadow of his past. His involvement in various disputes and lingering questions about his own role in the lawman-outlaw dynamic kept his story in the public eye. It is this blend of a checkered past and a future touched by the promise of modernity that makes Wyatt Earp such a fascinating figure. Curious details about Wyatt's life also invite further reflection. For instance, his exact role in certain confrontations remains disputed, and details about his personal relationships continue to intrigue historians. How did his experiences as a gambler influence his tactics as a lawman? And what personal sacrifices did he have to make in order to uphold his principles in a world where loyalty and honor were as fluid as the shifting sands of the desert? Wyatt Earp's story is one of transformation, a man who moved fluidly between the roles of lawman, gambler, and businessman, adapting to the demands of an ever-changing frontier. His legacy, built on a reputation of both order and daring, captures the complexity of a time when the boundaries of civilization were constantly being redrawn. Today, his life remains a subject of study and fascination, a testament to the enduring quest for justice and the challenges of establishing order in the unpredictable tapestry of the American West. In summary, Wyatt Earp's life offers a rich narrative full of vivid dates, significant geographical markers, and a host of curious facts that continue to spark debate. From his early life in Illinois to his defining moments in Dodge City and Tombstone, his journey is characterized by a balancing act between personal integrity and the demands of frontier justice. His legacy, punctuated by the legendary gunfight at the Oakley Corral, endures as a symbol of the complexities and contradictions of the Wild West, a true narrative that invites us to explore the intricate details behind the myth. Billy the Kid, born Henry McCarty around 1859, though the exact date remains uncertain, emerged as one of the most notorious and enigmatic figures of the American frontier. His early life was marked by hardship and frequent movement, which set the stage for the rebellious and restless spirit that would come to define his legend. Growing up in the mid-19th century, Billy the Kid experienced poverty and instability from a young age. His formative years were spent in the backdrops of New York and later Indiana and Ohio, where the hardships of life led him to stray from conventional paths. As a teenager, he became involved in petty crimes and began forging a reputation that was amplified by both his youthful appearance and his audacious behavior. It wasn't long before his ventures into the criminal world would take him to the vast, untamed territories of the American West. Billy's arrival in the West coincided with a period of rapid expansion and tumultuous change. In the late 1870s, he found himself in the New Mexico Territory, a region marked by lawlessness, economic opportunity, and deep-seated rivalries among local factions. Here, his life became intertwined with the notorious Lincoln County War, a violent conflict that pitted rival business interests and factions against one another. Billy, operating under the name William H. Bonney as well as his original moniker, was drawn into this bitter dispute that came to symbolize the broader struggle for power and control in the unsettled West. During the Lincoln County War, Billy the Kid's daring exploits, including his ability to evade capture and his participation in numerous shootouts, elevated his status as both a feared outlaw and a folk hero among some segments of the population. His escape from seemingly impossible situations helped cement his reputation as a cunning and resourceful gunman. Although records suggest that he may have been responsible for killing a number of men, some accounts claim as many as 8 confirmed deaths. The actual number is still a matter of debate among historians. This ambiguity only added to the mystique surrounding him. A few curious details about his life contribute to the enduring allure of Billy the Kid. For instance, some accounts indicate that he possessed an innate sense of timing and daring that allowed him to slip away from encounters that would have sealed the fate of a less experienced outlaw. His exploits were widely reported in local newspapers, and the sensational nature of his escapades in dusty frontier towns like Lincoln, New Mexico, and other nearby settlements quickly transformed him into a living legend. Towns in these regions provided the perfect stage for his dramatic story, a blend of rapid escapes, confrontations with lawmen, and fleeting moments of both triumph and tragedy. Geographically, the rugged landscapes of New Mexico played an essential role in shaping his narrative. The region's expansive deserts, mesas, and remote hideouts offered natural cover for criminals on the run, enabling Billy to develop a cat-and-mouse dynamic with authorities. The Lincoln County War, fought against the backdrop of these stark terrains, underscored the intersection of lawlessness and natural beauty in the American Southwest. The physical environment was as much a character in his story as any man, providing both refuge and a battleground where loyalty, betrayal, and survival intertwined. The allure of Billy the Kid's life is not solely in his criminal endeavors, but also in the manner of his eventual demise. On July 14, 1881, his life came to a dramatic end when he was shot by Sheriff Pat Garrett, a lawman whose determination to bring order to the disorderly lands of New Mexico was as legendary as the men he pursued. The circumstances surrounding his death and the subsequent legacy of the rebellious outlaw have fueled endless speculation. The rapidity of the events leading to his fall and the fervor with which his story was recounted added layers of myth to his already multifaceted persona. Beyond the raw facts of his criminal career, Billy the Kid's life also invites us to ask questions about the broader cultural and social dynamics of the time. How did the environment of the American frontier contribute to the emergence of such a figure at such a young age? What does his ability to navigate between the realms of outlaw and folk hero tell us about public perceptions of justice and rebellion in the rapidly changing society of the Old West? These questions highlight the interplay between individual agency and the chaotic realities of frontier life, a balance that Billy the Kid exemplified throughout his short life. His story has been reshaped and retold through countless books, films, and academic debates over the decades. Some narratives suggest that his charm and the youthful vigor he embodied resonated with a public eager for symbols of defiance against societal constraints. Others focus on the tragic elements, the loss of potential and the harsh realities of a lawless landscape that left little room for redemption or a second chance. Whether seen as a victim of circumstance or as a self-made rebel challenging the status quo, his legacy continues to spark debate among historians and enthusiasts alike. Billy the Kid's life, including the controversies and the colorful accounts of his actions, is a testament to the complexity of frontier existence. His ability to navigate multiple identities, part-time outlaw, daring escape artist, and an almost mythological figure, mirrors the contradictions inherent in the American West during a period of dramatic social, economic, and territorial evolution. His journey from a troubled youth to a symbol of defiant rebellion encapsulates the spirit of an era defined by its stark contrast between civilization and the wild, unpredictable forces of nature and human ambition. In summary, Billy the Kid remains a figure wrapped in both historical fact and folklore. His early life in the unstable environments of the East transitioned into a tumultuous period in the New Mexico Territory marked by the violence of the Lincoln County War. Throughout his brief, dynamic career, his daring escapes, the mystery surrounding his true identity, and the rapid spread of his legend continue to captivate our imagination. His life is a vivid example of how a single individual's actions can come to embody the spirit of an entire era, a time when the frontier was not just a place, but also a crucible for legends that endure long after the dust has settled. Jesse Woodson James was born on September 5, 1847, in Clay County, Missouri, into a region and a time when family loyalties and the scars of the Civil War were deeply intertwined with daily life. His early environment was steeped in the conflict and turmoil that would later shape his identity as both a ruthless outlaw and a folk hero to many. Raised in a family known for its strong Confederate sympathies, Jesse's formative years were heavily influenced by the bitter divisions of the Civil War. In fact, during his adolescence, he became associated with irregular Confederate guerrilla units operating in Missouri, a state notorious for its internal strife during the conflict. Although the exact details of his early involvement are still debated by historians, it is clear that the experiences he gained in the Civil War forged a predisposition for the kind of daring, unconventional tactics that would later characterize his career as an outlaw. After the war ended in 1865, Missouri, like much of the border region, was marked by lingering resentments and a deep cultural divide between Union and Confederate supporters. These tensions provided the backdrop for the emergence of Jesse James as a symbol of defiance. The devastation of the war, combined with economic instability, fueled a societal desire for heroes who could be seen as standing up against the forces that many perceived as having betrayed their cause. Jesse, with his sharp instincts and strategic mind, soon found himself at the helm of what would become the infamous James Younger Gang. This gang, composed of men with similar backgrounds and grievances, quickly built a reputation for executing bank and train robberies with a blend of precision and audacity that captured the public imagination. One of the most compelling aspects of Jesse James's career was how he and his gang managed to operate across a wide geographical area. Their exploits spanned several states, including Missouri, Kansas, and beyond. The gang's first notable robbery occurred in 1869, targeting a bank in Gallatin, Missouri. This was a time when the rapid expansion of the railroads was transforming commerce and travel across the nation, and train robberies became a new frontier of crime. By targeting banks and trains, the gang not only struck its symbols of economic power, but also tapped into the modernizing spirit of the age, an irony that fueled public debate over whether Jesse was a villain or a kind of Robin Hood figure fighting against a corrupt system. A key element of Jesse James's notoriety is rooted in the way his exploits were reported and later romanticized by the press and in dime novels. Contemporary newspaper accounts, though often exaggerated, painted him as a master strategist who orchestrated his crimes with the precision of a military commander. For instance, his ability to elude capture for so many years fed the narrative of a man who defied not only the law but also the inevitability of retribution. Among the curious details that continue to intrigue researchers is the way James meticulously planned many of his operations. While some accounts suggest he possessed a natural flair for leadership and an exceptional understanding of timing and geography, others point to a relentless determination to reshape public perception. The operations of the James, younger gang offer a fascinating study in the criminal enterprise of the post-war West. By the mid-1870s, the gang was responsible for an array of high-profile robberies that disrupted financial institutions and the burgeoning rail networks. Their exploits were not merely random acts of violence. Rather, they were calculated events that sometimes involved insider knowledge and careful study of train schedules and bank procedures. The gang's operational methods, including the use of diversionary tactics and rapid getaways through the vast, open landscapes of the Midwest, underscored the unique challenges of law enforcement during this period. The vast expanses of Missouri and Kansas, with their sparse population and rugged terrain, were ideal for covering tracks and creating myths of untouchable bandits. One of the most dramatic and talked about incidents was the robbery of a bank in Northfield, Minnesota, in 1876, a venture that proved disastrous for the gang. Although Jesse James managed to escape capture, this failed robbery marked a turning point, leading to increased law enforcement pressure and internal dissent. The outcome of Northfield not only signaled the beginning of the end for the gang's era of unchecked activity, but also added a complex layer to Jesse's public persona. Was he simply a criminal mastermind exploiting a corrupt system, or was he an embodiment of the tumult and unfairness that had gripped America in the aftermath of the Civil War? Such questions persist in historical debates and help explain why his legend continues to evoke both admiration and repulsion. Jesse James's personal life adds another dimension to his enduring myth. Although notorious for his criminal activities, accounts from his contemporaries describe him as a man with charm and a sense of humor, a fact that contributed to the conflicting portrayals of him as both a ruthless killer and a misunderstood rebel. His public image was carefully constructed by supporters who saw him as a victim of a punitive system, while detractors emphasized the violence and instability he sired. This dichotomy is emblematic of many figures of the Old West, where the line between hero and outlaw was often blurred by the complex socio-political realities of the time. Geographically, the saga of Jesse James is closely linked to the landscapes of the American Midwest. Missouri, his birthplace, remained a constant backdrop throughout his life. The state's dense forests, winding rivers, and open prairies provided both a stage for his youthful exploits and a practical environment for evading law enforcement. His activities in Kansas, particularly around the railroads that sliced through the plains, speak to a broader historical narrative of how technological progress and territorial expansion could also catalyze criminal enterprise. It was this contrast between the promise of modernity and the persistence of outlaw culture that further amplified his legend. The culmination of Jesse James's life came on April 3, 1882, when he was betrayed and killed by Robert Ford, a member of his own gang turned informant. The assassination occurred in St. Joseph, Missouri, and the shocking manner of his death, executed in a manner that seemed almost anticlimactic after years of high-stakes drama, only enhanced the myth around him. Ford's actions were quickly branded by both the public and the media, with some viewing him as a traitor who ended an era and others seeing the killing as inevitable justice. The circumstances of his demise continue to be analyzed by historians, raising questions such as, what pressures drove a close associate to commit such an act, and how did this internal betrayal reflect the volatile nature of loyalty on the frontier? John Henry Doc Holliday was born on August 14, 1851, in Griffin, Georgia, into a family that valued education and professionalism. Initially, Holliday pursued a respectable career by studying dentistry, earning his degree from the Pennsylvania College of Dental Surgery in Philadelphia. His early life was marked by a classical education and a gentle, refined demeanor, a far cry from the life he would eventually lead in the turbulent West. In 1873, Holliday's life took a dramatic turn when he was diagnosed with tuberculosis, a diagnosis that, at the time, was regarded as a death sentence. Confronted with this grim prognosis, he sought a change of climate, hoping that the warm, dry air of the Southwest might alleviate his suffering. This decision set him on a path away from the predictable life of a dentist and toward the uncertain, often dangerous, frontier towns of Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and Colorado. Once in the West, Holliday transformed his life. No longer confined to the dental office, he embraced a new identity as a gambler, a vocation that often overlapped with the rough and tumble world of gunfighting. This new direction was influenced not only by necessity, but also by the unique opportunities presented by the lawless frontier. His reputation for deadly efficiency and a reputed quick draw became legendary, and though many of the tales about his exploits were exaggerated over time, they contributed to an image that has endured in popular culture. Holliday's transition from a learned dentist to a formidable gunfighter was accompanied by his deep involvement in the social and political fabric of frontier towns. One of the most significant relationships in his life was with Wyatt Earp. Their friendship, forged in the crucible of rough frontier life, began as they crossed paths in bustling Texas towns and later reached its defining moment in Tombstone, Arizona territory. Tombstone was a boomtown characterized by both its rapid economic growth and rampant lawlessness. In this volatile environment, the partnership between Earp and Holliday became a critical element in efforts to maintain order amid the chaos. A pivotal moment that ensured his place in the annals of Wild West lore was the gunfight at the Oakley Corral on October 26, 1881. In the midst of a rapidly escalating conflict in Tombstone, Holliday stood shoulder to shoulder with Wyatt Earp and other lawmen during a brief but intense shootout with local outlaw elements. Eyewitnesses were captivated by the swift and deadly precision with which Holliday handled his pistol, a performance that solidified his reputation as a lethal yet composed gunfighter. The encounter, steeped in both valor and tragedy, epitomized the harsh realities of frontier justice and further blurred the line between myth and fact surrounding his persona. Several curious details make Doc Holliday's life particularly compelling. Despite his transformation into a feared gambler and gunfighter, Holliday retained many of the refined qualities of his early education. He was known to be articulate, well-read, and even possessed an appreciation for literature, a stark contrast to the rough image often associated with Western outlaws. His dual nature continues to intrigue historians. How did a man with such a cultured background embrace the life of a desperado? Additionally, his swift transition from the orderly world of dentistry to the unpredictable realm of gambling and gunfighting raises questions about whether his terminal illness played a role in his decision to live life on the edge. Geographically, Holliday's journey across the American frontier mirrors the broader patterns of migration and expansion during the post-Civil War era. Born in the South, educated in the Northeast, and ultimately finding refuge in the southwestern climate, his movements reflect the search for both physical and existential salvation. Texas and New Mexico offered not only a remedy for his failing health, but also a stage where the rules of civilized society gave way to a raw, unregulated existence. In these wide-open spaces, the vast deserts and rugged mesas provided natural cover for his more dubious activities, while growing towns such as Tombstone and Dodge City became the theatrical backdrops for his larger-than-life exploits. Holliday's personal life, much like his professional pursuits, was marked by contrasts. His tender years in Georgia and Philadelphia left him with a degree of sophistication that persisted even as he became immersed in the rougher elements of frontier life. His ability to switch between genteel conversation and deadlier pursuits earned him a reputation as both charming and dangerous. This blend of qualities helped endear him to some and strike fear into the hearts of others. His participation in high-stakes gambling and his willingness to engage in lethal confrontations made him a symbol of defiant individuality, a man who embraced a lifestyle where every moment was both a gamble and a battle against the inevitability of death. Doc Holliday's life was inexorably tied to the volatile environment of the American West during the latter half of the 19th century, a period characterized by rapid change and constant conflict. His story is set against the backdrop of emerging towns and the expansion of the railroads, which facilitated the mingling of diverse groups of people and the transformation of rural settlements into chaotic hubs of activity. These dynamic settings amplified his legend, enabling his story to take on a mythic quality that has persisted in cultural memory. The culmination of Holliday's dramatic life came on November 8, 1887, in Glenwood Springs, Colorado. Suffering from the ravages of tuberculosis, he spent his final days in relative isolation, far removed from the dust and turmoil of the frontier. His passing marked the end of a short, tumultuous life that nonetheless left an indelible mark on the mythos of the West. Yet, even in death, the questions that his life raised linger on. What inner strength allowed him to reinvent himself so completely in the face of terminal illness? And how did the convergence of intellect, education, and the stark realities of the Wild West forge the unusual character remembered as Doc Holliday? In summary, Doc Holliday stands out as one of the most complex and fascinating figures of the American West. His journey from a promising dentist to a notorious gambler and gunfighter encapsulates the turbulent spirit of the frontier. Rooted in both well-documented historical events and the colorful embellishments of oral tradition, his life offers intriguing insights into the interplay of education, mortality, and rebellion. From his early days in Georgia and Philadelphia, through his transformative years in the Southwestern Territories, to his final moments in Colorado, Holliday's story is a testament to the extraordinary ways in which human destiny can be rewritten amid the expansive, unpredictable drama of the Wild West. Butch Cassidy, born Robert Leroy Parker, likely in the late 1860s in the rugged terrain of Beaver, Utah, became one of the most ingenious and elusive outlaws of the American West. His early life remains partly shrouded in mystery, but records indicate that he grew up in a frontier environment where opportunities and hardships went hand in hand. Growing up amid vast open spaces and modest settlements, Cassidy learned early the value of resourcefulness and self-reliance. These qualities formed the bedrock of his future as a criminal mastermind with a remarkable talent for planning and executing daring heists. As he matured in an environment defined by frontier justice and the fluid boundaries between lawful society and outlaw existence, Cassidy soon emerged as the leader of a gang that would come to be known as the Wild Bunch. Under his leadership, the gang became notorious for their string of bank and train robberies, carrying out their plans with a blend of audacity and meticulous preparation. The Wild Bunch exploited the rapidly changing landscape of the American West, operating primarily in the border regions of the United States. Their activities spanned states such as Wyoming, Colorado, and Utah. A significant aspect of their operational success lay in their use of natural hideouts. For instance, the remote outcrop known as the Hole in the Wall in Wyoming served as a nearly impregnable fortress. In that labyrinthine network of canyons and rocky outcrops, the gang found safety from the clutches of law enforcement, using the terrain to mask their movements and confuse their pursuers. Cassidy's criminal career was marked by a series of audacious bank and train robberies during a period when the burgeoning network of railroads transformed commerce and travel across the nation. With increasing modernization, the railroads not only connected distant communities but inadvertently offered criminals a new and efficient means to target financial institutions and valuable cargo. Cassidy and his gang capitalized on the limitations of the era's communication and transportation systems, planning their heists with a precision that often left law enforcement scrambling in the aftermath. Their ability to strike swiftly and disappear into the vast and unregulated expanses of the frontier created a legend around their exploits. a legend that blurred the lines between outright criminality and a more romanticized image of a rebel challenging the encroachment of modernity. A defining characteristic of Butch Cassidy's career was his knack for evading capture. After nearly every high-profile robbery, he demonstrated an almost uncanny talent for vanishing without a trace. This extraordinary ability was due in part to his intimate knowledge of the landscape. His familiarity with the rugged terrain, whether it be the open prairies, steep canyons, or isolated desert regions, provided him with natural cover and escape routes. His frequent use of the hole in the wall not only gave his gang a temporary safe haven, but also created an enduring image of outlaws disappearing into the wilderness, untouchable and free. Furthermore, Cassidy was a master of reinvention. He often assumed new aliases, making it exceedingly difficult for authorities to track his movements or confirm his identity. This continual reinvention added layers to his mystique and contributed to the popular image of an outlaw who was always one step ahead of those seeking to bring him to justice. The impact of Butch Cassidy's exploits on outlaw lore is significant. His series of well-planned, high-stakes heists captured the public's imagination, as people were both fascinated and repelled by his apparent defiance of a system that many saw as increasingly oppressive and modernizing. In an era where the American frontier was closing and traditional ways of life were giving way to new forms of governance and social organization, Cassidy's ability to thrive outside conventional rules resonated with a public eager for symbols of resistance and freedom. His life and his dramatic escapes from law enforcement elevated him from being perceived merely as a common criminal to becoming a celebrated icon of the rebellious spirit of the West. Butch Cassidy's story is deeply intertwined with the geographic and historical context of his time. The sprawling, untamed wilderness of the American West offered both a haven and a stage for his operations. The wide-open prairies, rugged mountain passes, and barren desert regions were not merely settings but active elements that allowed him to execute his plans with remarkable success. This strategic use of geography was crucial during a period when law enforcement capabilities were limited and the vast distances made rapid pursuit challenging. The physical isolation of outposts like the hole in the wall, where local sympathies sometimes leaned toward the outlaw's defiant stance, further enabled Cassidy and his gang to operate with a level of impunity that seemed almost impossible in more populated areas. Cassidy's life and career also reflect the transformational period of American history during which he operated. The latter part of the 19th century was a time of rapid expansion, industrialization, and the closing of the frontier. In this era of transition, traditional codes of honor and a way of life that valued individual freedom and defiance were increasingly at odds with the emerging structures of modern law enforcement and commerce. Cassidy's career, marked by both audacious criminal activities and ingenious escapes, symbolizes the tension between these two forces. His exploits were not only a testament to his personal ingenuity, but also emblematic of an era when the promise of modernity clashed with the enduring allure of the untamed West. Despite the many accounts and debates surrounding his actions, several open questions about Butch Cassidy's later life continue to fascinate historians and enthusiasts alike. Where did he go after his final known exploits? And did he truly manage to escape into obscurity on another continent? How did his early experiences in the unforgiving landscape of the West influence his approach to planning and executing his criminal endeavors? These unresolved issues have only deepened the mystique surrounding his legend, ensuring that his story remains a vibrant and dynamic part of American history. The legacy of Butch Cassidy is enduring, not merely because of the daring bank and train robberies he orchestrated, but due to the larger narrative of a man who mastered the art of escape and reinvention. His clever tactics, deep knowledge of the terrain, and ability to manipulate his public persona have all contributed to his lasting status as one of the most iconic figures of outlaw lore. His life encapsulates the complexities of a period when personal ingenuity and the harsh realities of the frontier converged to create stories that continue to capture the imagination. In reflecting on Butch Cassidy's life, one is reminded that the American West was not just a backdrop for lawlessness, but a dynamic landscape in which the boundaries between heroism and criminality were constantly redrawn. Calamity Jane, born Martha Jane Cannery on May 1, 1852, in Princeton, Missouri, is one of the most intriguing figures of the American frontier. Her life story is marked by resilience, courage, and a willingness to defy the conventional expectations for women of her time. Growing up in a challenging environment on the frontier, Jane quickly learned that survival depended on strength, resourcefulness, and a fearless attitude. In her early years, Calamity Jane faced hardships that would mold her into the robust personality for which she later became famous. Moving frequently across the rugged landscapes of Missouri, Kansas, and the Dakotas, she encountered the raw realities of frontier life. These experiences instilled in her a unique blend of toughness and compassion that would define her character. Although her early exploits are sometimes shrouded in myth, it is clear that she embraced challenges head-on, whether tending to livestock under harsh conditions or fighting off threats in a rapidly changing world. Jane's reputation as a sharpshooter and scout grew during the tumultuous years following the Civil War. Traveling through the Great Plains and into the Black Hills region, areas where the American West was both dangerous and full of opportunity, she earned a name for herself by accompanying Army scouts and prospectors. Her ability to handle a rifle with apparent ease and accuracy earned her respect among the men and women who roamed the frontier. Although the details of many of her escapades have been amplified over time through tall tales and dime novels, contemporary reports suggest that Jane's skills were more than just folklore. They were a testament to her determination and practical ability in a world that demanded physical prowess and mental fortitude. One of the most memorable facets of Calamity Jane's life was her association with Wild Bill Hickok, a legendary gunfighter and lawman. Their paths crossed during her years in the bustling, often lawless, towns of the frontier. In Tombstone, Arizona Territory, and Deadwood, South Dakota, where larger-than-life personalities and dangerous situations were part of daily life, Jane's connection with Hickok added both intrigue and complexity to her public persona. Their friendship, marked by mutual respect and shared experiences on the frontier, contributed to a narrative that blurred the lines between myth and reality. This association with one of the most famous figures of the Wild West further cemented her status as an icon of the era. Beyond her reputation as a sharpshooter, Calamity Jane was a multifaceted personality. She worked as a scout and even as a performer, engaging audiences with her vivid storytelling and rugged charm. Her performances, often held in emerging Western theaters or during traveling shows, showcased not only her talent for marksmanship, but also her ability to captivate a crowd with her tales of adventure. This dual role as both a practical frontier woman and an entertainer allowed her to navigate the challenges of the wild, untamed West with both grit and grace. Geographically, Calamity Jane's life intersected with some of the most legendary landscapes of the American frontier. Her travels took her from the early settlements of Missouri, through the open prairies of Kansas and Nebraska, and into the more notorious territories of the Dakotas and the Black Hills. In these regions, where the environment was as formidable as the challenges posed by human conflicts, she found not only danger, but also opportunity. The vast expanse of the plains, the dense forests, and the rugged hills all contributed to a stage on which she could demonstrate both her physical abilities and her adaptability to ever-changing circumstances. These landscapes also played a crucial role in shaping her legend, as the isolation and raw beauty of the frontier provided the perfect backdrop for the narratives that emerged about her life. Curious facts surrounding Calamity Jane's life abound and continue to spark discussion among historians and enthusiasts alike. For example, her nickname Calamity is often attributed to her habit of being in the middle of chaotic, unpredictable situations, a reputation that both intimidated and impressed those who heard her story. Whether it was a narrow escape from a dangerous encounter with outlaws or her willingness to stand up in hostile territory to defend others, Jane's actions left an indelible mark on the mythos of the West. Her willingness to adopt roles typically reserved for men, such as scouting and engaging in sharpshooting contests, raised questions about gender and identity on the frontier. In an era when the expectations for women were rigidly defined, Jane's life became a living example of how the harsh realities of the wild could forge unexpected paths for those willing to defy societal norms. Calamity Jane's story is interwoven with a broader cultural context that highlights both the harshness and the opportunities of the American frontier. The post-Civil War period saw a rapid expansion and the closing of the frontier, and individuals like Jane captured the public's imagination by embodying the spirit of a time when courage, defiance, and survival were paramount. Her journey from a humble beginning in Missouri to the storied towns of the West illustrates not only her personal evolution, but also the transformation of the American landscape itself. In a world characterized by rapidly shifting boundaries and emerging modernity, her life offers a window into a period of profound change, a time when traditional roles were challenged by the sheer force of human determination and resilience. Even as the details of her life have been romanticized and sometimes contested by historians, Calamity Jane remains an enduring figure whose legacy invites further exploration. How did her early experiences, filled with both struggle and adventure, shape her later exploits on the frontier? What elements of her character allowed her to navigate a world dominated by danger while still maintaining her sense of humor and humanity? These open questions continue to fuel interest in her life, ensuring that the legend of Calamity Jane remains as dynamic and engaging today as it was during her lifetime. In summary, Calamity Jane's life is a compelling narrative of survival, strength, and defiance in the face of the unpredictable challenges of the American West. Her fearless approach to life, combined with her skills as a sharpshooter and her role as a scout and performer, transformed her into a multifaceted icon of the frontier. Geographically and historically, her journey through the vast territories of Missouri, Kansas, the Dakotas, and the Black Hills provides a vivid backdrop to her extraordinary adventures. Ultimately, the enduring mystery and magnetism of Calamity Jane lie in her ability to transcend the traditional confines of her time, offering us a timeless example of how one person's courage and determination can redefine the boundaries of possibility. Annie Oakley, born Phoebe and Moses on August 13, 1860, in a log cabin near Clermont County, Ohio, became one of the most renowned sharpshooters in American history. Growing up in rural Ohio, she honed her exceptional marksmanship by hunting and shooting at a young age, a skill that would eventually propel her into stardom. From early childhood, Oakley demonstrated an uncanny ability with firearms, a talent that defied the gender norms of the 19th century and set her on a path to challenge and redefine societal expectations. Her rise to fame began in an era when the American frontier was rapidly evolving, and opportunities for women in many fields were severely limited. Oakley's shooting prowess soon became evident as she surpassed the abilities of many of her male counterparts in local shooting competitions. Her reputation for precision and speed in handling a rifle spread throughout her community and beyond, catching the attention of influential figures in the burgeoning world of Wild West entertainment. Annie Oakley's most transformative chapter came when she joined Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. In this traveling extravaganza that celebrated the mythology of the American West, Oakley captivated audiences with her stunning shooting displays. Her acts, which included splitting a playing card edge-on at impressive distances and performing trick shots that seemed to defy the laws of probability, astounded crowds in theaters across the United States and abroad. Her performances were not merely demonstrations of technical skill. They were grand spectacles that merged entertainment with an inspiring challenge to the prevailing gender norms of the time. By excelling in a field predominantly dominated by men, she became a symbol of both American ingenuity and the potential for women to excel in even the most unexpected arenas. The Wild West show, with its itinerant lifestyle, took Oakley across the country and even overseas, positioning her in landmark locations such as major cities in Europe and the bustling frontier towns of America. Through these travels, she not only exhibited her shooting abilities, but also encountered a wide array of cultures and geographies. This exposure helped cement her image as a global ambassador of Western lore, with every new performance adding another layer to her already fascinating legend. Her ability to travel extensively during a time when such journeys were arduous speaks to both her determination and the growing appeal of Wild West spectacles worldwide. Throughout her career, Oakley continuously pushed the boundaries of what was expected from a woman in the 19th century. While many were accustomed to associating women with domestic roles, Oakley's achievements on the shooting range turned her into a defiant figure who broke through societal restrictions. Her skill with a rifle not only entertained but also challenged the rigid gender dynamics of her time. Her record-setting performances showcased that sharp intellect, discipline, and a natural affinity for shooting were qualities that transcended gender. In doing so, she inspired generations of women and men alike to question traditional roles and to see beyond the limits imposed by society. Annie Oakley's impact also extended to the realm of sport and popular culture. Her exhibitions drew significant public interest and played a vital role in the popularization of competitive shooting as both a sport and an art form. Her influence can be seen in the way marksmanship and precision shooting became associated with the idealized image of the American West. Her consistent ability to perform feats that were considered superhuman for her time led to numerous anecdotes and tall tales, which only enhanced her mythic status. Despite the embellishments that often accompanied her story in popular accounts and dime novels, contemporary records and eyewitness testimonies confirm that her skills were extraordinary. Moreover, Oakley's career intersected with significant historical and geographical trends of her era. In the post-Civil War period, America was rapidly transforming through industrialization and westward expansion. The Wild West show itself was a cultural response to a nation coming to terms with its past and its future. It dramatized the transition from a lawless, rugged frontier to a more regulated and modern society. In this context, Oakley represented both continuity and change, a link to the raw, untamed spirit of the early West and a harbinger of modernity in entertainment and sport. Her acts not only entertained but also served as a subtle commentary on the evolving roles of individuals within a changing American society. Throughout her life, several curious facets of Oakley's story continue to intrigue historians and admirers. How did a young girl from a modest Ohio farm develop such precision and confidence with firearms at an age when most children were expected to engage in more conventional pursuits? What challenges did she face as she navigated a career that put her directly in the limelight, often in environments hostile to women who dared to break the mold? Additionally, as she toured internationally with Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, how did cultural perceptions of the American frontier and its myths influence her performance and public persona? These open questions not only add depth to her legacy, but also invite ongoing exploration into the complexities of her life and the times in which she lived. Annie Oakley's legacy is lasting because it transcends the simple narrative of an exceptional marksman. It encapsulates the convergence of personal talent, cultural revolution, and historical transformation. Her ability to captivate audiences, her defiance of restrictive gender norms, and her role in popularizing the image of the Wild West have all contributed to a legend that persists in the collective imagination. Today, her story is remembered as a beacon of empowerment and a testament to the indomitable spirit of someone who refused to be confined by the expectations of her era. In summary, the life of Annie Oakley is a compelling narrative of talent, resilience, and transformative impact. From her humble beginnings in rural Ohio to international stardom as a featured performer in Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, she redefined what was possible for a woman in the 19th century. Her performances dazzled audiences, broke gender barriers, and reshaped the cultural landscape, ensuring that her legacy as a master sharpshooter and trailblazer endures. By mastering both the art of marksmanship and the art of challenging societal norms, Annie Oakley remains an iconic figure whose life continues to inspire inquiry into the interplay between personal achievement and broader historical currents. Buffalo Bill Cody, born William Frederick Cody on February 26, 1846, in Eau Claire, Iowa, emerged as one of the most iconic figures of the American frontier. His life journey took him from humble beginnings into the realm of a legendary showman whose Wild West shows captivated audiences around the world. Growing up on the edge of the expanding frontier, Cody experienced firsthand the bustling life of a developing nation marked by rapid change and adventure. These early experiences in the heartland of America instilled in him the spirit of the West, a spirit that he would later embody as both a frontiersman and an entertainer. In his youth, Cody took on a variety of roles that connected him to the wild and untamed lands of the American West. As a young man, he worked as a buffalo hunter, a job that placed him in constant contact with the vast prairies and rugged landscapes that defined the era. The buffalo hunts were not merely a means of livelihood. They were a window into the raw power of nature and the vast expanse of the frontier. Cody's adventures during these hunts offered him rich experiences and unforgettable encounters with the untamed wilderness, fostering in him a lifelong appreciation for the landscape that would later serve as the backdrop for his legendary performances. Cody's reputation began to extend beyond his skills as a hunter when he served as a scout during the Indian Wars and later worked as a courier and soldier during the Civil War. These experiences further enhanced his understanding of the frontier's demands and the dramatic contrasts between civilization and the wild. It was during this time that he developed a knack for storytelling, narrating his adventures and blending fact with the seeds of myth that would eventually grow into a grand legend. His experiences allowed him to observe and participate in pivotal moments of American history, a nation struggling with rapid expansion and the violent turbulence of change. The turning point in Cody's life came with the realization that the extraordinary adventures of the frontier needed to be shared with a broader audience. In the 1880s, he began organizing traveling exhibitions that would later evolve into what became known as Buffalo Bill's Wild West shows. These shows brought a carefully crafted, romanticized vision of frontier life to audiences both in the United States and abroad. By blending reenactments of staged Indian battles, rodeos, sharpshooting displays, and stories of daring escapes and rugged survival, Cody created an irresistible spectacle that offered the allure of a heroic, adventurous past. His intimate knowledge of the West allowed him to recreate its excitement with astonishing detail, a combination that struck a chord with a nation hungry for tales of courage and adventure. The impact of his Wild West shows was profound. With remarkable foresight, Cody not only entertained but also educated audiences about the legends and everyday realities of life on the frontier. His shows were staged in iconic settings, ranging from the dusty towns and open plains of the American West to the grand theaters of major cities and even the courts of European royalty. Touring Europe in the 1890s, Buffalo Bill became a symbol of American ingenuity and adventurous spirit. His ability to present a larger-than-life image of the West resonated with people far beyond the borders of his native country, transforming the mythology of the frontier into a global phenomenon. Cody's personal charm and charisma played an essential role in his success as a showman. He possessed an innate ability to engage and captivate his audience, combining wit, charm, and a storyteller's flair. This magnetism allowed him to create a public persona that was both credible as a frontier scout and beloved as an entertainer. His shows provided vivid, theatrical representations of the West that appealed to a wide range of spectators, from those who had experienced the hardships of the frontier firsthand to urban dwellers who could only dream of such adventure. Through his careful cultivation of his image, Cody ensured that the Wild West would never fade from the national imagination. Geographically, his life and career were inextricably linked with the dramatic landscapes of the American frontier. The rugged canyons, expansive prairies, and majestic mountain ranges were not only the settings for his early adventures, but also the visual foundations of his later theatrical productions. The natural elements of the West lent an air of authenticity to his recreations, underscoring the ruggedness and boundless possibility of the frontier. His deep connection with these diverse environments contributed to the historical allure of his shows, as audiences perceived in his work a living testament to an America that was both wild and full of promise. Cody's legacy is complex, interweaving the gritty reality of frontier life with the artifice of performance. His Wild West shows, while dramatized and sometimes sensationalized, played a significant role in shaping the cultural narrative of the American West. They presented a world where danger, adventure, and heroism were as tangible as the landscapes themselves. His innovative approach to entertainment transformed traditional Western folklore into a spectacle that balanced authenticity with artistic license, a formula that has ensured the lasting presence of his legend in the annals of American history. Even as modern historians sift through records and personal accounts to discern the truth behind the myth, Many questions about Cody's life continue to engage scholars and enthusiasts. How much of the persona he cultivated was a reflection of his own experiences, and how much was the product of deliberate theatrical embellishment? What were the personal sacrifices behind his public triumphs, and how did his performances influence the national identity during a pivotal time in America's development? Such queries add layers of intrigue to Buffalo Bill's story, inviting ongoing exploration into the man behind the myth and the era he so vividly encapsulated. Buffalo Bill Cody remains an enduring symbol of a bygone era, a charismatic frontiersman who transformed his storied adventures into a sweeping cultural phenomenon. His legacy, immortalized through the Wild West shows, continues to remind us of the powerful human desire to capture the spirit of adventure and the allure of the untamed frontier. Through his blend of real-life exploits and masterful showmanship, Cody created a narrative of the American West that still resonates today, offering both a reminder of historical truths and an invitation to reimagine a time when the promise of the unknown beckoned at every horizon. Sitting Bull, born around 1831, near the Grand River in what is now South Dakota, emerged as one of the most influential Hunkpapa Lakota chiefs and spiritual leaders of his people. Growing up amid the vast and untamed plains of the American West, he experienced firsthand the traditions of the Lakota way of life, a life woven deeply into the rhythms of nature, the sacredness of the land, and the lore passed down through generations. From an early age, Sitting Bull showed an innate ability to understand and communicate the spiritual and natural world, a quality that would later establish him as not only a formidable warrior, but also a guiding force for his people during a time of immense upheaval. Sitting Bull's leadership was forged in an era marked by increasing tensions between the indigenous tribes and the expanding United States government. As encroachment by settlers and military forces accelerated in the mid-19th century, his role as a chief became intrinsically linked with the resistance against policies aimed at eroding traditional ways of life. His steadfast commitment to preserving Lakota culture and autonomy resonated strongly with his people, transforming him into a symbol of defiance against forces that sought to subdue them. This determination was vividly demonstrated in battles and councils, where he was as revered for his spiritual insight as for his military acumen. One of the most defining episodes of his life was the Battle of the Little Bighorn in 1876, a confrontation that epitomized the intense struggle between Native American tribes and the U.S. Army. Alongside other renowned leaders like Crazy Horse, Sitting Bull played a crucial role in orchestrating a surprising and resounding victory against an armed force that many had assumed to be invincible. The battle, fought near the Little Bighorn River in Montana, became a turning point that solidified his reputation not only as a warrior, but also as a strategic mastermind. His ability to inspire and unite disparate bands of Native American warriors under a common cause has left an indelible mark on the history of the American West. Throughout his resistance, Sitting Bull maintained a profound spiritual connection to the land and his ancestors. His life was a blend of physical and metaphysical challenges. He often turned to vision quests and ritual ceremonies to seek guidance and strength. His deep spiritual insight underscored every decision he made, from rallying his people before battles to negotiating with adversaries. This dual role as both warrior and spiritual leader set him apart from many of his contemporaries and has contributed significantly to the enduring mystique of his persona. While accounts of his visions and prophetic dreams vary, contemporary and later narratives consistently portray him as a man who saw beyond the tangible world, a leader who understood that the fate of his people was intimately linked with the spiritual energy of the land. Geographically, Sitting Bull's life was intertwined with the expansive territories of the Great Plains. The rugged terrain, characterized by sweeping prairies, dense woodlands, and the mighty rivers that carved through the landscape, was not only his home, but also a living symbol of the freedom and resilience that he espoused. The geographical breadth of the Lakota domain, from the rolling hills of South Dakota to the harsher environments of Montana, served as both a strategic advantage and a spiritual haven. This connection to the land was central to his identity, reinforcing his determination to protect the natural world that sustained his people's way of life. The legacy of Sitting Bull extends far beyond the battlefield. His unwavering opposition to U.S. government policies and his efforts to defend Native American sovereignty have cemented his place as an icon of resistance. Even after the defeat in subsequent conflicts, his presence loomed large in the cultural memory, serving as a reminder of the struggle for dignity and self-determination among indigenous peoples. Later in life, as he sought refuge from relentless government pressure by joining Buffalo Bill Cody's Wild West show for a brief period, his persona continued to embody the tensions between myth and reality. This unexpected chapter in his life illustrated the complex intersections of cultural preservation, identity, and popular entertainment during a transformative period in American history. Questions about the balance between his roles as a spiritual guide and a warrior linger among historians. How did his deep-rooted beliefs shape the tactical decisions he made on the battlefield? And to what extent did his participation in cultural demonstrations, such as the Wild West shows, influence public perceptions of Native American resistance? Such questions only add layers to the enduring intrigue surrounding Sitting Bull's life. They invite continued exploration into how one man could embody both a profound spiritual vision and an uncompromising fight for justice in a rapidly modernizing world. Sitting Bull's life narrative is an intricate tapestry of resistance, spiritual depth, and an intimate connection with the land. His legacy is a testament to the complex dynamics between indigenous culture and the forces of change that swept across the American West in the 19th century. As a chief and seer, he navigated challenges that went far beyond the physical battlegrounds. He wrestled with the very soul of a civilization in transition. His story remains a poignant reminder of the power of conviction and the enduring struggle for cultural identity. Through his life, one witnesses the convergence of history and myth, a powerful symbol of a people's fight for survival, dignity, and the sanctity of the land they call home. In summary, Sitting Bull stands as a towering figure in the narrative of the American West. His journey from a young man deeply connected to the natural and spiritual world to a leader who vehemently opposed the encroachment of a modernizing nation is a story of resistance, hope, and unyielding courage. His deeds on the battlefield, combined with his spiritual leadership, have woven a legacy that continues to inspire and challenge our understanding of power, culture, and the indomitable human spirit.